Good evening and welcome to another Azenquor Tuts tutorial. I'm Rushine Jones, your little educator for the evening, and what we're going to be doing tonight is creating a glossy icon. This is the iTunes icon, but essentially using the principles that we're going to be going through in this tutorial, you should be able to create a whole bunch of different icons, or at least a style of one. So let's get started. So first, File, New. And let's just set our width and height to be 1000 each and resolution at 72. Because we won't need to print it, we can leave the resolution there at 72, which is typical DPI for your desktop. Press OK. Now let's do a little deconstruction here. I mean, as a graphic designer, you need to know where the shapes are coming from or how to create things. Now, as you can see here, just looking at this, it's majority circle. You know, I think it's one circle with a bunch of colors in there, was actually several circles. We're going to go through that. So it's really just a huge circle, another bunch of circles in there, and this shape on the inside. Alright, so actually let's get into it. So first things first, let's create our circle. So we're going to draw an ellipse, and you have to be on the ellipse tool. Now before you actually start drawing your ellipse, make sure that you have shape layers on. Now your options might not look the same depending on the version of Photoshop you're using. I'm using Photoshop CS 5.1, and there are later versions of Photoshop out there, the interface slightly looking different. Now let's create our ellipse. So hold shift while drawing will actually create it from a particular corner. If you want to draw it from the center, shift and alt will be satisfactory. So we just pull that out and we get whatever foreground color we have here, the gray one. Now let's go to the layers again. Now we want to create a little gradient in there. As you can see over here, it's a gradient that goes down. It's lighter, darker, lighter. Alright, so let's get into it. So we just hit FX, that's our layer styles, and we're going to choose gradient overlay. Now we can see our gradient here, which is black and white, and we'll just click on that, and we're going to play around with the settings. So we need a dark gray. You also need a press OK, a slightly dark or green, and a light colored gray. Rather, we'll just make this one a little lighter as well. Yeah, and this doesn't need to be that dark, just dark enough. And we press OK. Now we got those options there, and I think this will do. We can press OK afterwards. Now that's our first gradient. We press OK. The next one is to duplicate this shape and scale it in. So we can always press Ctrl J to duplicate this selected layer, or just right click on it, choose duplicate. Once you're satisfied with the name in your circle, I press Ctrl T and holding Shift and Alt again just to scale it into this transformation point here. I will just scale it in slightly and tick. Now you can kind of see where that is, but it doesn't quite look where we want it to look. So we're going to have to play around with the layer styles again. So you can just simply double click on that layers FX little button there, and we're going to play around with the gradient. So I kind of want a gradient that's you know, something that looks like it's dug out. So I want to stick with a dark color at the top, bright color at the bottom. You can always flip these. So just move these around so we get an effect like that. Right, so I'm going to do this just to kind of fix it up a little bit. Yes, yeah. Like so. And maybe this doesn't need to be that bright. And you press OK. Tick. Now look at the style. We have a linear gradient that's from one side to the next side, and that is OK. I'm going to apologize from now. Dogs in my neighborhood keep barking. Sometimes it can be very disruptive, but we must press on. Seriously. Alright, press OK. Now that we have this part in, yep. These dogs, they're so disrespectful. Alright, let's continue. Alright, give me a second. Right, where were we? We were fixing up this little inner circle here, and we've completed that, and the dogs have started to bark again. Wow. Alright, here's what we're gonna do. Once we've completed this part, I want to take note of this little area here, this very white area. Now, there's multiple ways we could actually use it, but what we just use is a drop shadow, and we just change the settings on that particular shadow. So here's what we look like here. I'm going to turn off the global lighting so that it's not affecting anything else. Set the angle to about 90 degrees and change this to white. Now on multiply, you're going to get a transparent look. Kind of want a bit of overlay. Now let's increase the size. Alright, just one distance to go just slightly. Probably change the opacity slightly as well. And even the size can go down. It all depends on the look you want to create, really. Alright, so I'm going to look at that. Once we get that out of the way, press OK. We're going to have to duplicate this one as well. So duplicate layer. I'm just going to call this the glossy part. Not parry, part. Alright, now the next part is getting the little bulbish type thing here. Now we're gonna just going back again and change this drop shadow out of the way, and we kind of want the gradient to be a blue. Now you don't have to make your gradient blue. Depending on what you want to create, you can always use a bunch of different options. This hat is probably getting in the way. Alright, so let's remove that. Put in another one. OK and change it to a radial. So I have that. I can always move this up. The next part of it is after press OK, I'm just going to scale it in. Control T. Just slightly. Just like that. And we can continue with the same thing. Just double click on this FX. Doing an inner shadow. I don't need the global light. Now the global light would actually affect everything. In the case you had it on, everything that has an angle and a distance, it'll treat it like as though you had a solar lamp affecting all the shadows. So by taking off the global lamp, you have it just isolated just to that particular property. Okay, so we don't need any distance for this, but we can use a size, and you can see as it comes in, it looks a lot better. Right, I'm going to try using an inner glow as well, just to see how that looks. Slightly, just to get that that kind of a look there. You don't have to make it all 100% right. So just have a little of that. Now the next part to add to this particular thing is our starburst effect. Now you could always go online and download your own starburst effect, but it's really cool to know how to actually create one. So let's create a new document, file, new. 1000 by 1000, and it's very important for this particular case to make sure that your work area is square. Now we're going to start off with drawing a small rectangle. Now, depending on how much spokes you want, you just shrink or make bigger the selection. So I'm just going to move this over just to kind of get that. The sweet sound of potatoes on the outside barking. Quite annoying, really. Alright. That is that. Now select everything by pressing Ctrl A, then filter, distort, polar coordinates, and you're going to get something looking like this. that's the polar to rectangle. Now here's how this actually works. It's like pinching all of these together to create that center point and then just scattering it all around, giving that circle shape. So press OK. Once you get that done, we can just click using the move tool and drag this over and just drop it where we need to drop it. Now if you want to kind of get it to properly centered, you know, we just play with the opacity to get it perfectly centered in the center of the center. And once you get that done, you can always just bring up back the opacity. Now the next part is actually we want it to be isolated just to this blue area here. So we're going to click on the thumbnail of this particular shape, and that's going to create a selection of all the pixels that make up that shape. So holding that, control, click on that thumbnail, or any thumbnail for that matter, if you're going to do a selection of the pixels in a particular layer. And then we're going to go to this layer here with the starburst, and we're going to choose to apply a mask to it. Now based on your selection, it's going to create a mask around that selection, which is going to do that. I think my little thing here is a little off center, I'm not too sure, but in the case you want to move something, you can always unlink these two by clicking on it, and you can move over the that there, and then you can always link them back again. Alright, so the next part to this is we kind of want the inside to be transparent and we want the outside to be transparent, and kind of have the center, as we see here, slightly just showing out, not here, not there. So because we have a mask, select the mask layer. Using a brush tool, we're just gonna click on the inside of it, make sure that it's black, because masks usually use black, white, and any gray in between. Now the black means you want to hide something, white means you want to show something, and gray is be semi-transparent. So we kind of do that bit and just come around the edges slightly. Yeah. If you want to apply more, you just go around it some more. Now this doesn't look quite like it, so we can play with our blending mode. So let's go over to overlay or one of those other ones. I prefer to use soft light if it's possible. The soft light gives me that, and I can always just lower the opacity slightly just to kind of get that effect. Now we're almost at the end of the thing, and we just need to create this music icon. Now Photoshop comes built in with music icon. You can always just use that. But if you really want to know how to use or to make your own music icon, we simply just do this. We're creating a new layer first of all, and we're going to use the elliptical marquee tool. Set our color to white, click on this, and just draw not a perfect ellipse, but something that's somewhat, you know, wider than long. Fill that with white, and we're not done yet because the music logo or icon there is not exactly straight. It has a slight slant downwards. So we click on that layer, press Ctrl T and right click. We're going to skew it, and skew actually gives you that kind of a slant depending on the axis you want. The other one now, we're going to be using the rectangular marquee tool. I'm just going to select something here and just draw it up. I'm going to just draw the stock on another layer just in case I need to kind of move it around. So I have that done, and that looks almost perfect, and that looks good now. Once I got those two, I'm going to just control on one layer, click on one layer, control the next layer to kind of or CTRL, so that I can select both layers. I'm going to right click and choose a smart object. Now the cool thing about smart objects is that you're able to, even though it's shown as one layer, you can actually double click inside and edit the inside of that layer, and then when you save, it's going to be reflected out here. So the next part now, we're going to just duplicate this by holding Alt and clicking outward and just having it like that. And we just need one more thing, and that would be the bridge that joins them. Alright, so here's the next part. Just create a new layer, and because I want these two to kind of line up, I'm going to be taking advantage of my rulers. So I hit ruler, Control R would be shortcut, and on the margins or the edges of these, you can actually drag out a guide. Right, now what you want to make sure is that you have snapping on. So make sure snapping is on so that when you're drawing, it's going to snap to something. Right, so we take our rectangular marquee tool and just click on there and just draw. Now this layer currently doesn't have anything on there, so I can just fill it in. And you might think, okay, cool, that's done. No, it's not. We need to kind of just skew this again. So click on it, Control T, skew it. And when you're satisfied, you just that, tick, and that looks about good. You can always hide this, Control colon. And once I'm satisfied with everything, I can always just convert everything to a smart object and just have that. Now the final settings are you can use a drop shadow on it, nothing too big. You can lower the opacity as well, and you kind of want a slight gradient on there, not like this, just a lot less obvious. And I'm going to put also an inner glow on it. So my inner glow is going to be the color white. Bring up the size if I wish until I get that. I just realized something. This is not perfect. Well, I'm gonna leave you to change that. For now, this looks relatively okay. But there are just two more things, two more little additional details we want to add. One is that glossy effect right there, and you kind of want one on this to make it look a little more glossy. Now, here's one way we can do the top bar. I'm going to duplicate this. So right click, duplicate. Don't really need to name it, and I'm gonna just change the gradient overlay to a white. So I'm just gonna pull this off. This is gonna be white. Now note that the bottom stops, so you have these things that are stops. The bottom stops actually control your color. The top ones control how transparent or the opacity. So what we're doing is setting one to transparent and setting one to non-transparent. Now if I actually do this, what's going to happen, because this is originally gray, you're going to kind of have the gray showing. Now if you don't want the gray showing, you can always lower the fill opacity. Now the fill opacity is different from the regular opacity. Fill opacity hides your pixels on the layer and allows you to actually use your layer styles without the need of the pixels. But if you were to lower the opacity, it just takes both of them into consideration and just hides everything. So always just make a note of that. I'm going to just reverse right here so I can get this look. I don't need it to be that bright, but this can work. And you can always check the scale just to make sure everything is working functionally. Once that's done, I'm going to press Control T, slightly scale it in, like so. Tick. Looks like that. And the last part now is getting inside here to look glossy. Now we simply do the same thing, except this time I'm going to right click on this, copy my layer style, so I don't need to be doing the same thing over again. And this part here is glossy, Control J to duplicate as well, and just right click and paste layer style, and it's just going to do that. I only need to just bring it in slightly, and holding Alt just bring in the sides. Tick, and we have that glossy looking icon. Now I can always rotate it as I see fit if I want to do that, but right now I don't think I need to rotate it because I think it carries its weight by itself. So that's how you can create a glossy looking icon, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Now don't just stick with just doing this. You can always make shields that look glossy. You can take a whole bunch of different effects to make it glossy, right? But don't just be limited to this. What I can probably add to this just to make it better is I'm going to show you guys how to make it look like it's reflecting, just to tie this whole thing up. So I'm selecting all the layers. I can probably group them by pressing Ctrl G, and right, I have that. I'm going to duplicate this now, right? So now I have a copy, an exact copy on top. I'll add a mask to it, and also I'm going to press Ctrl T. I'm going to right click on it and flip horizontally. That way it flips from horizontally, but I should probably flip it vertically. So flip vertically, we get that. I'm going to carry this down below it and hold shift actually. Do that. Now we're just using the mask and tick, bam. Next things next. Just gonna go on the gradient tool, choose from black to white. Remember, black is to hide and white is to show. And we're just gonna do this. It needs to be a linear gradient, so let's try that again. See? So you can create something like that. It's all reflecting on it. Alright, so you can always just link these layers here and just carry them up. You can see there's an issue there because I only just did that part alone, which is pretty easily solvable. We can just take this, fill the color with white, or just use a brush with black, and you get something like that. Yep, and that's how you create your reflection. Well guys, it's been a good tutorial. I hope you learned a lot. Keep practicing, get inspired, don't stick to where you are, keep getting better. This is Azenquor Tuts, Shane Jones. Take care and have a good night or morning, depending on which side of the world you are on.